Right. So we are recording and we having a transcript as well.
Yes, great, 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 great. We are live. Okay, so for this lovely meeting today, we have Lowellyne James, Dr. Lowellyne James, and myself. I'm doing the kind of interview here, and this is about Men's Month. So I'll be honest with you, I didn't really know there was such thing as a Men's Month. I knew there was Movember, and people kind of grow their facial hair, which obviously I'm doing really well at the moment with. Uh, And then I was thinking, what kind of issues should we talk about in Men's Month? Uh, and obviously, there are some things that come to the top of the mind, right? We've got mental health things going on. I know something happened in my personal life with losing someone due to mental health. And then there's so many other topics going on out there as well. But for the purpose of this interview, we would love to speak with Lowellyne and just get his feedback. So first of all, what do you think Men's Month is? Like what does it mean to you to be a man?
All right. Thank you for inviting me to give my view on what being a man is. I think being a man in the 21st century means that you take time to value and listen to others and be a beacon of strength and also wisdom.
Mm,
We in the 21st century kind of spurn the concept of being wise, and wisdom is something that I believe men should support the wider society with through advice, training, and instruction. The challenge that we have is that how we don't have a lot of wise men. We used to. It used to be a masculine trait that was valued, but now masculine traits that are valued seem to be more on the superficial nature in terms of strength, conditioning, and muscularity, in terms of physical muscularity, but not necessarily mental depth and breadth of expression and artistry. Uh, because in the past, men were warriors, but they were also artists as well and poets. The Bible has a classic, for those of you who are of the Christian faith or even Islamic faith, David was a warrior poet, right? Even the Greeks, the ancient Greeks, valued that balance. The Japanese as well, that ability to be not only a warrior but also to be a wise and noble individual. So that's what I think. The role of a man should be building on those classical lines of on concepts of masculinity.
yeah, great, great. I can definitely see what you mentioned there as well, playing out in society as well, right? So I think there's almost this crisis of masculinity, and I think some people obviously try to latch onto something of what they think is masculine. Because when you have a vacuum to anything, then something else replaces it, right? So I can see where you're coming from in that regard. And just expanding on that, uh, has your definition of masculinity changed throughout the years, or has it remained as a constant?
Well, as you get more matured, your understanding should evolve with you, because the definition of death is cessation of brain activity. So
Mm,
I have evolved, yeah. But fortunately for me, I had good templates. I had a dad, I had uncles who I tried to mirror off of them, and this mirroring is something that happened. Well, I should say organically, naturally, because my granddad, he used to go to the barbershop, and gentlemen would congregate in the barbershop and they'll have discussions. And my dad was there as well. And I was part of that whole social order. That social order no longer exists. So there is limited mirroring, because a lot of males grow up in single parent families, and some of them are estranged from their paternal links. So it is a crisis, and that crisis has manifested itself with male underachievement.
mm.
it is something that is boring. No disrespect to the woman for filling the gap, but male underachievement is a worrying development that could create some, and especially in Western societies, some social diseases, I should say. One of them being lack of marriage compatibility and mate compatibility for the other half of our human species in Western society. Yeah, a lot of women are deferring having kids because it's very difficult to find males that
Mm,
meet that high definition of wisdom and mental, acuity and agility. Because the girls have evolved and we haven't. We are still, um, I think, set somewhere in the late 19th century, early 20th century, and that doesn't bode well for our species from a Western perspective.
yeah, yeah, thanks. I can definitely see you have got wisdom there in your answers. Yes, so thanks for sharing that. Hmm. So, there were a few initial questions I had regarding that, and I think you kind of touched on it briefly. So really, my next question was going to lead into why do you think that the men have this crisis? Why has there been this breakdown that's gone on?
Well, it's a number of different things. One, labor has changed. We have, especially Western economies, have moved to a more service-oriented economy where there's less of heavy shifting and lifting that requires um, muscular capabilities that um, some women don't have, right? Before, like in my dad's time, he was an apprentice,
Yeah.
and he then evolved to become a administrator type individual in a bank, right? Because the economy changed and he changed with it. Now, some men haven't, for whatever reason, realized that soft what is considered, and it's a wrong term using the word soft skills, but those skills that are required in 21st century, like yourself, use of AI, robotics, technology driven type jobs don't require a lot of muscular agility and flexibility. Nonetheless, men have that built into them. I believe men socialize differently as well. And
Yeah.
that, and as I said to you, in my case, I was fortunate that I had a granddad and dad and uncles that I could have mirrored certain traits and characteristics off of. But however, if you don't have that family type circle or exposure, it makes it very difficult for you to then form these traits and these qualities that will attract a female partner.
Yeah, 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 absolutely. Because I was reading two kind of threads which are tying into what you're saying here recently, and it's particularly focusing in the US, right? So you've got women which are now graduating and they're starting on salaries which are higher than men, and basically they have a higher academic achievement than men. And if it's a also natural phenomena that women would rather choose someone that's on their level or above, then you're kind of setting up a bad precedent. It's not to say that women shouldn't be achieving what they're achieving, but at the same time, as kind of what you highlighted there earlier, right? There's something going on with the men. So yeah, I can see how that's an issue. And I'll just share one other insight relating to this. So I had a friend, she's very much a feminist, and she was talking about this book recently that was regarding basically another female complaining about dating sites, right? Uh, and the thing with dating sites is you've got the 90% of men, which are kind of ignored, probably tied in with some of the characteristics that you already mentioned. And then you have these 10% of men which are chased by the remainder of the women. Uh, and then I see that how that manifests itself, because some woman will then complain about men and say, "Oh, these men don't want to have commitment. They are like lying and all this kind of stuff." But then I also see it from another perspective, which is it's almost like business, right? You have supply, you have demand, and where one party has all the say, then they can exploit that to their advantage. So, it's interesting how these social things kind of manifest themselves. Um, yeah.
Yeah, but yes, this phenomena is somewhat new from a Western 21st century perspective, but however, nonetheless, it will create this disruption in the social order as exists now, because now we have a scenario where we have both males and females deciding to delay um, families for reasons of costs, career, and other different um, opportunities. And as a result of that, we have population decline, and it's going to affect economy. So a good example is Asia, which you're familiar with. And in Asian economies, the population is aging. We're heading towards what's called super Asian societies. Japan, Taiwan, South Korea, all these societies, their replacement rate in terms of deaths and births may stagnate these economies. And Japan's alternative is to choose robotics over immigration.
Mhm. Yeah. And
Right.
yeah. Mm.
And in from a British perspective, we want to curtail immigration, even though our population is middle aged and is heading in that direction if we're not too careful, with managing it. So it it has wider implications. This incompatibility issue
Mm.
between males and females, and it's not only occurring at the younger age groups, but it's also expanding to even middle age groups, because they are very, very well healed and well educated uh, senior women, middle-aged women that are looking for partners as well, and they can find, that suitable companion, to progress with, which then leads to other issues within the male population that have manifested themselves because of this this gap in achievement. So we have a scenario where males are becoming depressed, and in some cases
Mm.
suicidal. So it's a
Yeah.
topic that that uh, that has gone unheard of and untreated. We just think, it's just a part of life, but it isn't. So a good example, in not to disrespect certain communities, former mining communities in the United Kingdom, there's issues around, alcohol abuse. And with that, what happened previously, there used to be a mining culture that included miners' pubs. So men will work hard, then go and relax and, clean themselves, take all that cold dust off you, and then come in a nice suit and they go
Mm.
and they socialize in the pub. But what has replaced that? There's no hard work anymore. There's no physical labor. There's no mining, but we still have this pub culture. So all you have is a pub culture, no work.
Mm.
And that in itself, is again, another social issue that hasn't been addressed, right? And with the change in British economy from being, a very industrialized, export-driven economy to a more service-orientated economy. Men who thought that their life would be, I'll follow my father's path and go into the mines. That never happened. So that's where we find ourselves from a British perspective. I'm focusing on a British perspective because it's the audience that may listen to this conversation may empathize with what I'm saying. That change that happened since the 1980s to our time here in the 21st century.
Yeah. No, I totally understand where you're coming from, because obviously these areas tend to be more up north, from what I understand, because that's where more of the industrial heartland used to be, and then those kind of communities are left behind, and then once again we have a vacuum, right? And then something has to fill it. Yeah, which isn't always a good doesn't lead to a good outcome. Okay, so you touched on there regarding mental health. This was going to lead to my next question. So around you have so many different stats about this, right? That roughly like 3/4 of all suicides are men. Now, obviously, it would be terrible if if it was 3/4 woman as well. But the point where I'm going with this question is, why do you think men are so much more likely to commit suicide?
I believe, this is just my belief, that men are hardwired to lead. And again, leadership in the 21st century has to do with, in a lot of cases, with personal achievement and academic achievement, opportunities for leadership. So in previous centuries, the church or religious organizations were the temples of that particular era. Our temples today and our churches are football stadiums, right? Where more people go to football than go to church. That's our football selves, right? So, but the worship of this sporting icons, these young men that play football, and they are projected as being the pinnacle of masculine achievement. It's a very high bar, and a lot of males, try to mirror, go to the gym and mirror this Olympic style athleticism, try to mirror it as a way of attracting females, not realizing that the females that they're trying to attract, who are often, as you say, better educated, make more money than them, are not looking for that, right? They might like the appearance, but they're looking for a deeper, more fulfilling relationship, right?
Yeah.
So the again, because of that mirroring, a lot of men can't meet that image, right? So they then look into the mirror and they then begin to self critique and denigrate, and why am I not, why don't I have a six pack in terms of build, and why am I not driving a very fast car, right? And why doesn't she like me, and why can't I hold a job or a relationship? So because the mirroring is still happening. However, the mirroring is based upon an image that is airbrushed in some cases, or it's too high a bar to achieve. All right. So it's something that we need to build within to the 21st century young men, that values is more important, right? Muscles is good, but values is probably more important. And once you have a value-driven mindset, then you look at yourself in the mirror and you then look for continuous improvement, self-development, uh,
Mm-hmm.
peace of mind, which is not something that you could find in the accumulation of things, whether it be new mobile phones, cars. That doesn't help you.
Mm.
It's a personal journey and a personal experience to find that, so to self-actualize.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, okay. So that certainly does go very deep, right? Because I was reading something yesterday about Gnosticism. And Gnosticism is a religious and a philosophical movement. I'm just reading what the internet says here, that
Mm.
emerged in the first and second century. And it's an emphasis on personal spiritual knowledge over religious authority. And it just seems to be that what you said there was hinting that even though like lots of people are not necessarily attending church and they haven't got these, kind of traditional structural systems in place which give them that status and give them that guidance, they should still nonetheless still refer to something that's more internal, something that guides you higher, right? And that has those values over those material things.
Yeah. So just to, and you're probably aware of this. This is the difference between Eastern and Western views of life, right? So a lot of Eastern views, especially Far Eastern views, is based on Confucianism, Taoism, Buddhism, right? Which um, talk about, respect for country, respect for family, and respect for elders. In the West, we've lost all that construct. It's all about the individual,
Mm,
right? And it's your fault if you are not achieving something. It's your fault if you are not meeting the accepted social norms within Western society for being a man, right? Rather than, the value system being about, well, uh, finding inner peace and purpose. We then equate success with the accumulation of things, and not everyone is going to be able to accumulate a lot of things. It's just
mm,
the way how society is structured. Some people will have extraordinary success, and others won't. And this pressure to be mirroring multimillionaire football players and other um, icons from entertainment, especially for young males. It's and even the video games, show this overtly extreme muscular type imaging that is being mirrored,
mm.
right? So that play just continues into adulthood, and there's that dysphoria, that they can't meet this standard of masculinity that is real, that is not real.
Yeah, 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 yeah. It's an interesting one because it's almost like a parody. Like if we just briefly talk about women, right? I know a big issue for lots of women is to do with how they can be objectified,
Hmm.
right? And I suppose here there is almost something of that going on, but it's on a much deeper level, something that isn't easily seen, but it's going on there all the time in your subconscious mind,
Yes.
right? And then maybe from a psychological kind of standpoint, the unconscious takes these things in, and then the conscious mind will then process it in a different way.
Yeah, and sadly, it involves a lot of self harm that potentially can lead to mental health issues and suicidal thoughts.
Right, right. Because I think the thing with the mental health as well, just speaking briefly about it, and my own personal circumstance, without going into all the details, I lost someone to suicide recently, right?
Um,
And
I'm sorry to
whilst
hear that.
Yeah, yeah, thanks. And whilst I knew that he, was quite reserved to himself, like he was this kind of character who wouldn't really express his emotions that much. He'll if you ask him how he's doing, he'll say, "Yeah, yeah, things are okay," that kind of thing. And I almost get the feeling that for us men, when we're not feeling okay, we don't really want to show weakness. We want to kind of project that everything is good, we're strong, even if the whole house is burning in the background. So really, this then leads on to my next question, which is why do you think men are this way?
Right. So I did allude to the fact that there's something tied up in our chromosomes that propels us to want to be leaders,
Mm,
right? To lead, to be seen, to be heard, to be respected amongst other men, right? And because as I said to you, the mirroring doesn't come from, in a lot of cases, because of single parent families and other social issues. Um, boys who tend to have, or males who tend to have both parents and have a family structure with granddads and uncles, they tend to do well because they have that mirroring happening organically. They're part of a male socializing structure that, your granddad will show up to your football games, your uncles will show up. They'll ask you how you're doing at school, so you have that support network, right? Now, if you don't have that support network or had that nurturing, it makes it very, very difficult for you to be a doer and a balanced doer, right? Because you don't have that socialization support. Now, yes, it does mean that some guys who have come from single parent families don't succeed, but in the main, it's not the norm. It's not the curve, especially for males, and it's good to have that network. In my case, I still, refer to my dad for wisdom.
mm,
Right? He's there. He's 81 years old, and if I call him, he will give me sound advice.
nice.
Right? I could have that conversation with him, and because there's that opportunity to uh, express my feelings openly with my dad, it provides a comfort, a psychological comfort that no amount of therapy or money could ever replace. The love of both parents and especially love of your dad, because you've tried to mirror off of this guy, right? You don't realize it, but you then you find yourself doing stuff that your dad used to. Because I remember my dad used to do this, right? I'll do this. Okay. So, or in my case, my granddad used to wear a very smart Panama hat. I went and bought one, and I wear it during the summertime because I'm trying to mirror this perception of what I know to be, an image of masculinity. You know, it is a human thing, to reminisce and revere and look up to those who you consider to be influential in your mental framing of yourself. But however, if you don't have that, you will then mirror rappers, uh, football stars, people in the entertainment industry to be your icons.
Yeah, 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 totally. Makes a lot of sense. Okay. Yeah, so we're probably coming to the end, but I just want to try to get as many kind of points in before you have to shoot off. So, what kind of legacy or impact do you hope to leave for future generations of men?
Wow, that is that's a very deep one. That's so deep that I'm even scared about the response I'm gonna make right now.
Okay, well,
So,
maybe one way to think about it, or how I would approach it if you asked me that question, is obviously I'm aware you're a father, right? So I guess your offspring would naturally, you would want to impact them in some way, right? It's like passing down the torch.
well, it to me is it is one way of leaving a legacy, but a wider way of leaving a legacy for me is through my own research, through the development of the sustainability methodology and approach. I hope that by doing so, I can leave a planet that is better than how I got it. We failed to really fully appreciate that how all we have is tiny footprints in the arc of history, and I want my footprint in this arc of history to be a pathway where someone else will follow and build upon it to help humanity. Because
Mhm.
humanity right now is at a very serious crossroads. Sorry, not crosswords, crossroad where I seem to have lost you there, but that's
Oh,
okay.
yeah, you got me back. That transmission from space can be a little bit dodgy sometimes. I need to speak to Elon Musk to, realign those.
Alex,
Yeah. Okay. So the last thing that I heard from you, because I also lost you briefly, was we're at a crossroads.
yeah, we are at a crossroads, and as we as we evolve as a species, we need to understand our wider place within the ecosystem that we have, and how we should value others, and look towards not just about individual pleasures and passions, but also about the greater good. So I'm trying to leave a legacy where someone else could follow in my pathway and contribute to the greater good.
Okay. Well, I don't think that answer can be beaten at all.
I hope not. Right? Is that all you need from me, Mr. Coles?
Yeah. So maybe one last thing.
Yeah.
So with all your wisdom, what advice would you give to younger men trying to find a path or purpose in their life?
Find out what your passion is. Find out what makes you excited to wake up in the morning. And I don't mean your partner. I mean something that is innate and brings you joy and happiness intrinsically. It,
Mm,
it may not be what you think currently now, but you have to find that pathway. In my case, I love quality management. I like Japanese and Chinese philosophy, right? But um,
mm,
I spoke to some wise men, and they said to me, "Well, here are some options that you could think of if you want to grow in that direction." And they introduced me to potentially, expanding on the sustainability and environmental work I was doing, and that opened up a whole new frontier for me that I didn't even realize had existed. And I'm still walking in that pathway because I find um, satisfaction from it
mm.
that goes beyond the monetary reward that comes from that satisfaction. I believe I'm living in my own purpose. And when you realize what your purpose is, everything else seems to be secondary to it. I'm sorry about that, Sean, but you're listening. My
Yeah,
wife will be saying that, what?
yeah. But you know what? It's so true, right? Because
Yeah,
it's like a woman might say that she wants to be the most treasured thing in your life, but if you make her number one and you treasure and obsess with her, and obsess is the key word, that's
mm,
actually quite revolting, right? And the truth is, I think, and I do agree with you here, we almost have like that divine masculine energy of wanting to strive for something that's so much
yeah,
bigger than ourselves.
yeah,
And that actually makes us more attractive to the opposite sex as well at the same time.
yeah. Because you have purpose,
Hmm.
right? And it becomes so painfully obvious that you have a mission. Yeah, and once you find that mission, there's no turning back.
That's it. I'm on a mission to go to outer space. I don't know if I can turn this ship around.
You better do. Come back to it.
Yeah, I've got things to do on this planet with you, with sustainability. I don't want to abandon this planet just yet.
Yeah, don't abandon the mission.
Definitely not. Yeah. Okay, great. Well, thank you for coming on today. It was a pleasure, listening to all your insight into masculinity and all the other things we've talked about. Yeah, I suppose, is there anything else you would like me to ask that I haven't asked you?
No, I think you've covered all the bases, and thank you for the opportunity. And hopefully, we get a lot of comments in the chat about this particular discussion. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I look forward to it. All right. So, good speed. I don't know how they do it in Star Trek, something like this. Yeah. What is it? Live long and be fruitful.
And prosper, I believe it was.
Live long and prosper. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks so
Okay.
much.
Yep. Bye.
Yeah, bye bye.